Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are doing something that I've frankly been wanting to do for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a little bit different for us. Usually when we talk about psychological thrillers or, unreliable
Or
narrator.
crime noir, things like that.
Exactly. We're pulling from a novel or a screenplay or a thick stack of reporting. But today, the source material on the desk is, well, it's a single sheet of paper.
It is a very dense sheet of paper, to be fair.
It is. We are looking at a set of lyrics,
Okay.
specifically a track called The Ballad of O.J. by the artist Donnie Doom.
Right.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You hear that title, you know the pop culture history, and you probably think you know exactly what this is about.
Mhm.
But our mission today is actually quite specific. We aren't here to relitigate a trial or talk about, like, a media circus.
No, and that's a crucial distinction. We are treating this text as a standalone narrative artifact.
The story.
Yeah, we're performing a forensic analysis of the story told inside these lyrics.
Exactly. We want to profile the narrator of the song because when you actually read these lines, just the words on the page, it reads like a crime noir confession,
Oh, absolutely.
written by someone who is, simultaneously panicking and bragging. It is a first-person look into a mind in a high-stakes crisis in real time.
It's a fascinating character study. You have a protagonist who places us directly inside his head moments after a really violent event.
And what we find in there isn't remorse or logic in the way we'd usually understand it.
Not at all. It's this strange cocktail of um, dissociation, arrogance, and a very, very primal survival instinct.
It's gripping stuff. The details are so specific they feel cinematic. So let's not waste any time. I want to jump right into the opening scene.
Good.
Because the song doesn't really give you a warm-up. It just drops you right onto the
It
timeline.
certainly does. The narrator establishes the when immediately. He says,
hmm
last night, as I got home, about 10:30.
Okay, so 10:30, 10:30 p.m. Why be that specific?
Well, in narrative storytelling and certainly in, legal testimony, specificity creates a sense of reality.
Right.
He doesn't say late that night, he stamps the time. It grounds you in a concrete moment. It tells us, pay attention, the clock is running.
And the scene he walks into, it's not a quiet, empty house. He paints this picture of a stage that's already set.
Right.
He says, there was a limo, and Cato too.
So immediately we have the cast of characters. The mention of a limo does a lot of heavy lifting. It signals wealth, status, and importantly, a schedule. Someone is waiting for him. And then you have this named figure, Cato.
It feels crowded for 10:30 at night. You've got a driver, you've got Cato. But then right after establishing these witnesses, the narrator drops the physical reality of his condition.
And this is where the noir kicks in.
He says, I was bleeding from my hand.
That is the pivotal juxtaposition right there. You have the symbols of luxury, the limo, the entourage, and it clashes instantly with this visceral bodily injury.
He isn't stepping out of the limo with a glass of champagne.
No, he is actively bleeding.
But, and here's where the psychological profile gets really interesting. How does he react to that?
Mm.
If I walk up to a limo driver and some guy and I'm gushing blood, I am screaming for help. I'm asking for a towel. I'm panicking.
Most people would be yes, but the narrator tells us explicitly,
I kept my cool.
I kept my cool.
That is such a loaded phrase in this context.
It is. It suggests a massive amount of suppression. To keep your cool while physically injured implies that the injury is secondary to something else.
He's putting on a mask for the audience.
For Cato and the driver, yeah.
Yeah.
He is prioritizing his demeanor over his health. He needs to appear unaffected.
And he reinforces this by referring to himself in the third person. He says, the juice, no fool.
That dissociation is a classic psychological defense mechanism. When people refer to themselves by an alias or a nickname like the Jew.
Especially in a moment of crisis.
Right, especially then. It's often a way of separating the self from the situation.
So the juice is the character who can handle this.
Precisely. The narrator might be bleeding and scared, but the juice is a celebrity. The juice is a winner. The juice is no fool. It's an armor he puts on.
Wow.
It suggests a high level of narcissism, or at least a desperate need to maintain control of the narrative, even while his body is betraying him.
So we have a bleeding narrator calling himself the juice, standing in front of a limo, but his next actions are just baffling.
Bizarre is an understatement.
I mean, if he's trying to act normal, his definition of normal is completely broken. He says, let me tell you what happened then. I chipped golf balls and packed my bags.
Chipping golf balls in the dark. while bleeding.
I can't get past the golf balls. What is the logic there?
It's what we might call performative normalcy. They're taken to a manic extreme. He knows he needs an alibi, or at least the appearance of a routine evening.
So he picks a leisure activity golf announcement to signal to everyone watching, look, I'm relaxed.
I'm just practicing my short game.
But he's bleeding. It's like a scene from a horror movie where the killer tries to make coffee while covered in gore.
It is. It just highlights the chaos rather than hiding it. It shows a frantic mind grasping for symbols of innocence.
Like, innocent people play golf, so I will play golf.
But he can't sustain it because the urgency breaks through. In the same breath, he says he packed my bags.
It's a checklist. Item 1, chip golf balls. Item 2, pack bags. Item 3.
And I flew to Chicago.
The velocity of the lyrics really picks up here. We go from the slow, rhythmic chipping of golf balls to a jet engine in the span of, 2 lines?
He physically removes himself from the scene.
But again, the tone is so flat. He doesn't say, I fled to Chicago or I escaped. He just says, I flew.
Like a business trip.
Yeah.
That emotional flatness, that lack of effect, is chilling. He views the flight as just another logistical step. It paints a picture of someone who is operating on pure calculation.
And he's completely detached from the emotional weight of whatever just happened.
Right. So he's in the air, or at least he's away. And this brings us to the core structure of the song.
The chorus?
Yes, because the whole thing is framed as a message to someone. The refrain repeats throughout the text. So take a letter, Shapiro.
Take a letter. That's such an old school phrase. It sounds like a CEO talking to a secretary in the 1950s.
It establishes a clear power dynamic. The narrator is the boss. Shapiro is the subordinate.
And Shapiro's obviously his lawyer or his fixer. But if I'm Shapiro and I'm taking this letter, this is the worst letter I have ever received in my life.
It's a defense attorney's nightmare, absolutely.
Because the narrator just drops the pretense. He says explicitly, I just stabbed my ex-wife.
It stops you cold. There is no ambiguity. He doesn't say, I hurt her or something went wrong.
Yeah.
He confesses to the specific violent act.
I just stabbed my ex-wife.
Right.
And this is the part that makes this deep dive so necessary. He doesn't stop there. He confesses and then immediately pivots to why it doesn't matter. He tells Shapiro they'll never find the knife.
This is the cognitive dissonance at the heart of the character. He admits the factual guilt, I did it, but he firmly believes in his legal innocence because the evidence is missing.
It's like he's saying the truth is flexible.
To him, the truth isn't what happened. The truth is what can be proven.
Wow.
If they can't find the knife, then in his mind, the stabbing essentially didn't happen. He says, blood is dripping from my hand, acknowledging the reality.
But follows it with, they'll never solve the crime.
That is a terrifying worldview. It's totally outcome-oriented. It reveals a character who has no interest in morality, only in consequences.
He isn't worried about his soul, he's worried about his schedule.
And he tells us exactly what his motivation is. It's not complex.
He says, I don't want to do no time.
Simple self-preservation.
Yeah.
That is the engine driving everything. The golf balls, the flight to Chicago, the hidden knife. He is terrified of prison.
That is the only vulnerability he shows in the entire text.
The only one. He doesn't mourn the ex-wife. He doesn't express regret. He just doesn't want to be locked up.
Now, as if confessing to Shapiro wasn't enough, the narrator starts adding people to the distribution list for this letter. And this part, I had to read it twice.
It's unbelievable.
He says, send a copy to Judge Ito.
That is a stunning display of audacity.
Why on earth would you send a confession letter to the judge presiding over your case?
It reads like a taunt. It suggests a level of mania or maybe a feeling of invincibility.
He's basically saying, I can tell you exactly what I did, Judge, but you're powerless to touch me.
Because I've outsmarted you with the evidence. It turns the legal system into a game. He thinks he's the game master.
He thinks he is above the court.
Yes.
But the lyrics betray him a little bit here. Because for all his bragging, the juice no fool, sending notes to the judge, he admits to a pretty significant failure. He says, I failed the polygraph.
That is a crack in the armor. A polygraph measures physiological responses, heart rate, sweat.
So even though he said earlier, I kept my cool,
The machine says otherwise.
his body betrayed him.
Exactly. His conscious mind might be saying, I'm cool, I'm the juice. But his autonomic nervous system was screaming, guilty.
He sounds annoyed by it too, like it's just a broken appliance.
Right, I failed a polygraph. But he has a backup plan. And this brings us to probably the most famous imagery associated with this narrative.
He recites a rhyme. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
This is his shield. The polygraph failed him, the blood is dripping, but he has this conditional statement. It's almost like a magic spell.
As long as the glove doesn't fit, the rest of the reality doesn't matter.
Hmm.
But here is the twist that I think makes this song such a brilliant piece of writing.
I agree.
Immediately after reciting that famous line about the glove, he takes a shot at the guy who presumably came up with it. He says, "Johnny Cochran's full of it."
I think this is the most complex line in the song. It changes everything.
Unpack that for me, because he's relying on Cochran's defense to save his life, but he's calling him a liar.
Well, think about the logic. The narrator knows he is guilty. He told Shapiro, "I stabbed my ex-wife." So when Johnny Cochran stands up and says, "You must acquit because of a glove," the narrator knows that Cochran is speaking nonsense. He knows the defense is a charade.
So he looks down on his own lawyer.
He views Cochran as a performer. He thinks Cochran is full of it, full of lies, full of theatrics. But, and this is the key, he is cynical enough to use that theatrics to get what he wants.
That is incredibly dark. He's basically saying, my lawyer is a clown and his rhyme is stupid, but it's going to work, so I'll play along.
It shows a manipulative personality that is off the charts. He uses Shapiro as a scribe. He taunts Judge Ito. He uses Cochran as a mouthpiece
Everyone is just a pawn in his game.
to ensure he don't want to do no time.
And the song reflects that entrapment. It doesn't have a linear end. It just loops. The chorus comes back again and again. So take a letter, Shapiro.
They'll never find the knife, so take a letter, Shapiro. The repetition mimics the obsessive nature of his thoughts.
He is fixating on the one thing that guarantees his safety. The missing knife.
As long as he keeps repeating, they'll never find it. He feels safe. It's like a mantra.
But the blood keeps coming back too. Blood is dripping from my hand.
He can't scrub the blood from the lyrics any more than he can scrub it from his memory.
Yeah.
It creates this permanent state of tension.
The physical stain of the crime versus the intellectual denial of it.
The song just traps us in that moment between the crime and the verdict.
I want to zoom out for a second and look at the title again. The Ballad of O.J. Now, traditionally, a ballad is a specific kind of song, right?
Historically, yes. A ballad is a narrative song, often passed down orally, that tells the story of a hero, or a tragedy, or a great adventure.
Like the Ballad of Davy Crockett. It immortalizes a figure.
Right.
So is this guy a hero?
In his own mind, perhaps? But functionally, this is a ballad of evasion.
The heroic adventure here isn't fighting a bear.
No, it's fleeing to Chicago and disposing of a weapon. It subverts the genre completely.
Right.
It elevates a cover-up to the status of a legend.
It asks the listener to marvel not at his bravery, but at his ability to get away with it.
And that puts us, the listener, in a really weird spot.
How so?
Because by listening to this ballad, we are basically Shapiro.
That is a very uncomfortable realization.
We are the recipients of the letter. We are the silent confidants. We know the truth. We heard the confession. But we are just listening. We are complicit in his secret.
It's spooky. We're sitting in the limo with him, watching him bleed, listening to him justify it, and we can't do anything.
And that's the power of the first-person narrative in noir. It forces you to align with the villain, even for just a few minutes.
So let's try to recap this wild narrative arc. We have a protagonist arriving home at 10:30 at night, greeted by a limo and an entourage, while actively bleeding.
He attempts to mask this with a persona of coolness and performs a bizarre ritual chipping golf balls before fleeing the state on a jet.
While he's away, he dictates a letter confessing to a brutal stabbing, driven purely by the fear of prison.
But he simultaneously mocks the judge and bets everything on the fact that the knife is gone.
And finally, he relies on a legal defense. The glove that he privately thinks is nonsense, orchestrated by a lawyer he thinks is full of it.
It is a portrait of a man who is totally fractured. He's guilty, he's bleeding, he's confessing, but he's also arrogant, dismissive, and supremely confident he's going to walk free.
The Ballad of O.J. presents a narrator who believes that reality is negotiable.
He believes that if you can control the knife, the glove, you can rewrite the ending of the story, regardless of what you actually did.
It forces us to question the nature of the legal system itself, at least through the narrator's eyes.
Indeed. If you confess to your lawyer but hide the evidence from the jury, have you told the truth?
Or have you just played the game well?
That is the big question.
And I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over. The narrator claims that Johnny Cochran's full of it regarding the glove defense, yet he clings to that very defense to save his life. Does this suggest that the narrator sees the entire concept of justice not as a search for truth, but simply as a performance? a show where the best actor, or the one with the best script, wins regardless of the blood on their hands.
It certainly seems he believes the verdict depends on the showmanship, not the facts.
A cynical thought, but one that fits this song perfectly. Thanks for diving deep with us today into the twisted lyrics of the Ballad of OJ.
We'll see you next time.